All right, last video. William Carlos Williams. We're going to do 2 poems by William Carlos Williams, who is one of my favorite poets ever. Love, love, love me some William Carlos Williams. So he actually was a doctor. He was from Paterson, New Jersey. I know got a lot of students from New Jersey. He was from Central Jersey. He worked as a doctor for a lot of poor people, and he made house calls and delivered babies and took care of sick and dying children. And he took care of a lot of people who couldn't afford to pay him. He would sometimes get paid with eggs or whatever somebody had around the house that they could pay him with it, and he was fine with that as well. Um, the kind of doctor that really cared about people and really cared about his community. Wrote so much about New Jersey and had such a distinct regional voice and wrote so many voices of the people in his community. So he'd often write from the voices of people in his community. Like we said with Gwendolyn Brooks, how she gave a voice to people from Southside Chicago. William Carlos Williams gave voice to a lot of poor families or people that he knew from New Jersey. He was also really influenced by visual arts and music, and he was just a really brilliant man. He was also very big on the Imagist movement that we talked about a little bit, with just treating the image as a thing, not using extra words. He wrote about art. He wrote about people. He wrote about New Jersey. He was I don't know, just love him. Love a lot of his work. But we're going to really quickly look at the 2 poems here. The first one, so little, so simple, The Red Wheelbarrow. Maybe you've read it before in high school. It is 4 little teeny tiny stanzas with 3 words in each of the first lines of the stanza, and then just 1 word in the second line of each stanza. So, it doesn't have like a rhyme or a metrical pattern, but it does have some sort of appearance of a traditional poem. But there's no punctuation. There's no capitalization. So, like where does one thought and where does one end and when does one thought begin? It all just kind of runs together. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow, glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. It's like a photograph. A photograph, like, he was just walking up somebody's path and that's what he saw, a red wheelbarrow glazed with water. It just rained and there were white chickens next to it. Boom, snapshot. Except, first of all, let me just say, a wheelbarrow, imagine what a wheelbarrow looks like. Top heavy, like the top of it is longer and then it has the 1 wheel underneath it. You can see how the lines almost resemble wheelbarrows with that 1 word underneath them, like the 1 little wheel that balances a wheelbarrow. And you can, the first line is so different from everything else. Everything else in it is very visual. The colors, very stark colors, red and white, and then we're glazed with rainwater. I love that word. But the first, so much depends upon. Like, what is the tone of that? It kind of goes against the image of everything else to have this sort of abstract question, or not really question, but sort of a question in the beginning, because you were saying, well, what depends upon, chickens and wheelbarrows? And then you think, well, wheelbarrows, are things that things depend upon in a kind of a strange way. How they can carry things that you couldn't move by yourself. Which is 1 little wheel underneath it. It can support so much weight above it. Again, you wouldn't be able to carry this giant bag of mulch from one place to another, but with this 1 little wheel, all that depends, upon that 1 little wheel, and you can move it across the yard. There's like longing there too. I don't know. So much depends upon. Let me know what you think of that. And then again, really simple language, but wheelbarrow is broken up and is glazed with rain. So, it just rained. I love that word, glazed, and then beside the white chickens. So what does this little simple snapshot do for you? Like, what does it mean? Does it have to mean something? Does it mean something? Does it make you feel something? Does it make you see something? Does it remind you of something? When you read this really simple poem, how do you feel? How do you respond to it? How do you think about it? And what depends upon the wheelbarrow that's sitting there in that little yard? Who does it belong to, and why does so much depend upon that simple tool in their yard? And then the other poem, I love that one too. I get a little excited when I read William Carlos Williams. This is just to say, is a note. It's like a note that he left to his wife one day, and it's simply, the first line, the title, is "This is just to say, I've eaten the plums that were in the icebox, and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me. They were delicious, so sweet and so cold." Like, if this poem, like, if you were writing this poem today, you could hashtag it "sorry, not sorry." Like, that's the way I look at this poem. Because it's just to say, like, oh, just letting you know I ate those, the fruit you had in the refrigerator and you were saving for yourself. And just, like, again, the language, icebox. That's such a cool word. I don't know why. I just love icebox. I love that word. It's not refrigerator. It's icebox. And you were probably saving them for breakfast. I like the sound of the word breakfast too. The language is so beautiful and simple, but so precise and evocative. You see everything so crisp, just like those limes plums. They were so sweet and so cold. And there were more than one, because he said, "I ate the plums." So, even more of a dick move. Like, you could have eaten one plum and saved some plums for your wife, but they were so sweet and so cold, you couldn't stop with one. And you ate all of the plums that she had saved for breakfast. So again, what's the tone of this poem? It's a little tongue-in-cheek. He says, "Forgive me," but is he really asking for forgiveness? Again, it's simple, but so, I don't know. I don't know why I respond to these poems the way I do. Like, I'd like to know how you respond to these poems. What were your thoughts on these pieces? And I'll be looking forward to seeing the discussion forum this week. Take care.